Welcome, everybody, to the Inner Carnivore podcast, episode 16, with my guest, Nicole Penner. Before we get in, whether you guys are watching the full video on YouTube, listening on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, if you could do a huge favor, like, subscribe, and leave a review. That really, really helps us out, and I appreciate everybody who listens in and has already done so. That being said, how are you doing, Nicole?
Doing well, thank you.
And so I have a couple things that I want to get into. But first, I want to start with recently you've been sharing kind of your journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've actually followed you from when you had a couple hundred followers.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
so it's super cool to see like this explosion. And just recently, you've started sharing like where you were 7, 8, 9 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and where you are now. What transition have you gone through for people who haven't seen your transformation? What transition have you gone through over the last year, essentially?
Yeah, well, basically, I guess around 7 months ago, I was fed up with feeling sick and tired. I was done with it. I had been the heaviest I had ever been. I had no energy. I was constantly bloated. I was depressed on a high amount of antidepressants, and I first heard about the carnivore diet, and I thought, and I heard someone, or I saw a testimony of someone who was able to get off of their antidepressants through using the carnivore diet. So that was kind of like, man, maybe I should try this out. Maybe that could help my mental health and also my physical health. And so I was like, well, what do I have to lose, basically? So then, yeah, I guess 7 months ago, I went into it as an elimination diet, basically. So I'm going to cut out basically everything except meat, eggs, and dairy. And I did that for 1 month, and I was completely shocked. I was like, okay, this works. I could just feel my anxiety lifting. I had no more bloating whatsoever. My head felt clearer, I had more energy. And so I did that pretty strict for about 1 month. And then is when I started to reintroduce the fruits and the vegetables, honey, maple syrup, and did that for, I think it was about another month of just that, month or two. And then I took the leap of starting to lower my medication, which I was very nervous about because I had done that in the past. And the last time that I tried to do that, I ended up in the hospital for 3 months, um, 3 months straight for my depression in the hospital. And um, so I was pretty nervous to do it again this time, but I slowly weaned myself off, and I didn't have any side effects. I didn't have any negative things pop up. I didn't have any depression come back. It was insane. So yeah, now it's been what, 4 months that I've been fully off my medication, and I was on a high dose, and I had been on them for 5 years, and I thought, my family history, most people in my family are on antidepressants, and I thought, well, I'm just stuck with this the rest of my life. Even though it makes me feel sluggish and horrible, I guess I'm just stuck on the medication. And so the fact that I've been able to get off of them has probably been the biggest blessing, along with just being healthier and losing weight and um, gaining energy and just feeling like myself again, basically. And so yeah, it's kind of my transition, and now more recently I've kind of found, I guess, my sweet spot, or where where I'm feeling my best is with lots of meat, eggs, and dairy, some fruits and vegetables, really like the root vegetables, and then just natural sugars, honey maple syrup, and then sometimes some rice that I'll cook in bone broth or sourdough, but pretty much staying away from all the processed foods and processed sugar and whatnot, all the garbage food. So
For
yeah.
sure. So there's two things I want to highlight. The first one is I love. So I've interviewed quite a few people, and not all of them carnivore. A lot of them have been carnivore at one point,
Hmm.
but it highlights a super important point that a lot of people miss. And I think a lot of the dogma that's surrounded carnivore misses is, like, Sean Baker's come out and said the carnivore diet is designed for people who maybe need to use it for a month or 8 months or a year or 10 years or 20 years. Like, it's not necessarily the only way that anybody should be eating.
Right. Okay, so
And
he has said that himself. I haven't seen him say
yeah,
that. Okay.
I'll have to find the video because he came
Yeah.
out on a video and it was like this is what it's designed for, and like some people need to be on it for a long
Hmm.
time. Um, and so I do want to get into a little bit because I know there's a story there with carnivore and you going to now like ancestral.
Hmm.
Um, but I love the fact that that's like you used it for its purpose, and then you start introducing. You've kind of found that sweet spot because I think that's super
Hmm.
super important. Because I've kind of actually gone the opposite, and I've experienced a lot of what I'm pretty sure you've experienced. Because when I started, I was in all of my bios, I'm carnivore, and then I have like slash animal based.
Yeah.
Because for well over a year, I was some fruits and some honey,
Hmm.
and I got a lot of pushback on that. And now recently, I've kind of cut that out because that's more aligns with what I'm trying to do from a physical standpoint. Um, but before we get into like that aspect, when you got off your medications, because I know there's somebody out there who's on medication that's scared of this, right? And I've talked to a couple people who have gotten off a wide range of medication. Did you do it, for lack of a better term, under medical supervision, or did you kind of do it on your own?
Um, my doctor still doesn't know, actually, um, because I knew what they were gonna tell me, right? This is what you've done in the past. It hasn't worked out well. Um, so don't do it. So, but I knew I can't do it cold turkey. That's just not smart. No, but nobody should ever do that. So I just gradually did it myself, and um yeah, I wish I would have found this way of eating way sooner. It could have saved me from so much. Like last time when I tried to get off my medication and I was in the hospital for 3 months, they put me through 12 rounds of electroconvulsive therapy. So basically, that's induced seizures that they use.
Shock therapy.
Yeah, shock therapy. I went through 12 of those. And when I got out of the hospital, I didn't even remember what my family's faces looked like. Like, my memory was so shot. And even now, to this day, I feel like it's still, my memory is really suffering because of that. Um, and it didn't even cure me at that point. And so I'm just like, wish I could have taken charge of things sooner and tried this out and not have to gone through that.
Did at any point, so you said you've been on it for 5 years, so this is not like something that you just discovered. At any point, did anybody talk to you about any diet or environmental factors that might be playing a role?
So not really. Like when I was in the hospital that specializes in mental health, that is their specialty. Um no, they did not talk about that whatsoever that I can remember. Outside of the hospital with my family doctor, he did tell me, like, you know, you should focus on exercise, that that is going to help you a bunch if you get, you know, more sunshine and walking and all that. So yeah, that one time I was talked to about it, but other than that, no.
It's like, so I have a similar story with, not me personally, a lady that I interviewed who went through a whole host of issues, but she was on 12 different antibiotics for MRSA and a whole host of infections she had. And I asked her the same thing. I was like, "Did you do it through your doctor?" And she's like, "Well, I went to my doctor and I told him what I wanted to do. And he said, 'No, you'll be dead in 30 days. Like, you just can't do that.'" And she's like,
Wow.
"Oh, okay. Well, I did it 60 days ago and just stopped."
Oh,
And he's like,
wow.
"Okay, well, I guess you're not dead. Like, I guess that works." So, like, that's got to be really hard to try and talk to somebody who's just going to tell you. Because at the end of the day, nobody really wants that kind of conflict. Like, whether you disagree with your doctor or not, nobody wants to, like, get in a yelling match with your doctor over what medications you should.
Right.
So that's crazy that, you know, that you can do that and that you've been able to do that.
Yeah. And I would never tell someone I would never tell someone do it without your doctor or whatnot. I mean, legally I can't even I can't say that to someone, right?
Yeah,
But that's what I did.
that's that's so awesome. What do you think, based on how you ate before, what do you think was the driving cause for? Was it like a long build up? Because, like, I know what we typically eat. Like, I know you're in Canada, but you guys basically eat the same that we do. What do you think played the biggest role in that?
Um well, it all really started after I had my first daughter. Then it was like I guess it was classified as postpartum depression, but it just never went away. And I think as the depression got worse, or just, you know, I kind of coasted through it, I found a lot of comfort in food, especially processed food. Like I was one that, oh, you know, like life is so busy with my young kids and they need to nap in their car seats while I go for a drive. So let me go get a large Starbucks and then let me go get a Wendy's breakfast sandwich, or, you know, the fast food and the processed grains and processed sugar. I think that was it. And just finding comfort in those foods because it was easy and it filled a craving. And yeah, I think that was it. And then it just kept getting worse, and my physical health just kept getting worse, and kept feeling worse about myself. So then what do? Oh, you just keep eating or whatever. Yeah.
I think that's a really important point, because so I started for similar reasons, not to get off medication, but because I was finally fed up. Um, like, I was a college athlete and did bodybuilding in my 20s and spent pretty much my entire 20s like in excellent shape, and then had kids, like got the dad bod, like not bad, right? Like, I never would have classified myself as overweight necessarily, like a little bit. Um, but yeah, all those things that just, once that starts happening, like, you start like getting sluggish, and then it just kind of all tumbles downhill. And it was finally okay, I'm tired of this, and that's how I found animal based. I started with Paul Saladino,
Okay.
and it was the same thing. Like, you know, I still remember my wife, and I think I've told every single person I've ever talked to about carnivore or animal based. Like, my wife sent me the profile, and she's like, "Okay, he's a little quirky, like he's a little out there,
Mm-hmm.
like he's basically some hippie that lives in Costa Rica and is independently wealthy and surfs all day and, you know, eats testicles and whatnot." Um, and so I was like, "All right, whatever." And I saw it, and I was like, "I could do that. Like, tell me I don't have to eat vegetables, cool." Like,
Yeah.
at that point, I was just tired of feeling like crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was tired of the bloating, right? I was
Yeah.
tired of just, we had just gotten back from Vegas, and I remember being at the pool and being like, "I hate the way I feel and I don't like the way I look, so I need to change something." And I had tried like a diet before that I've used in the past, and it just, like, for 90 days I was super strict. I lost some weight, but I felt terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I got to the end of it and I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, I just suffered for 90 days and I don't feel good. Like, what is the
Yeah.
point? And so that's when I started, and it's hard to put into words like what exactly changes to make you feel better, because like you stop bloating and then you're like, I feel a little better, okay. And then you feel like you can like move more, and then you move more, and then you start to feel even better, and then because you're moving and you're not eating bad, you start losing weight, and then you start feeling better about it, and then it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, before you know, you're like, man, like, this is awesome. And people are like, well, what changed? Well, my food changed, but like a whole host of stuff changed with it.
Right.
And it's, I've talked to so many people that have had healed physical. And I have another guest coming on that's cured like years, like decades of anorexia and eating disorders and mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that aspect, because had you told me this, I have a science and nutrition background. Had you told me 5 years ago that changing your diet could completely, essentially rewire somebody's brain, I would have been like, nah, that's not. So it like, it's crazy to talk to people and like watch them change. And I think that's super awesome. And I applaud you for that.
Right. And that's where it's like, you see those pages where they preach that, a calorie is a calorie no matter what the food, and just eat within your calories and eat whatever you want and you're going to feel great and lose weight. Well, maybe you'll lose weight short term, but you're not going to feel great. You're just not. Like, you can eat 1200 calories of Twinkies a day and your mental health is going to go down the drain, and it doesn't work like that. Yeah.
So another thing that I've seen, and you just started posting these, which I think is super cool, because I had no idea. Your like transformation pictures, and I forget exact amount of, I think you said like 20 or 25 pounds,
Maybe
which
5, yeah.
in the grand scheme doesn't seem like a ton, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you look so much different. Like, you look like healthy and vibrant now.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you done? Because I know you post some videos, but what else have you done from a physical standpoint to help facilitate that process?
Um, well, before we moved to Alberta, we were living in BC, and our house was right in front of a mountain. And I would hike up that mountain almost every single day. And when I first started, it was, I'd hike for a few minutes and I'd pretty much be crawling up the mountain. I'm like, I can't do this. And, I'd push myself a bit farther each day. And, just getting that type of exercise and being in nature and in the sunshine, that that really that really helped. And that was pretty much the main form of exercise that I had been doing. um I also would, we had a creek by our house there, and I would cold plunge in there and cold showers. So that's kind of like the physical stuff that I've done. And yeah, the cold showers and cold plunging, like, if I don't do that one day now, like it changes my morning. Like, my mornings are so much better and more productive and more energy if that's how I start my day. So I'm a big advocate for that.
So I've wanted to try cold plunging. Part of my problem is the amount of money that it would cost me to keep a cold plunge cold would be
Yeah.
astronomical. Um, and so people have suggested cold showers, and I don't know how you do it. So I spent a decent portion of my athletic career doing hot and cold baths,
Hmm.
right? And it's literally just, it looks like a trough that's filled with water and ice, and you pop in, and then you pop over to heat and pop back to cold. And I could do that. Like, I didn't enjoy it, but I could do it. Cold showers, I can't. Like, cold showers drive me insane. And I don't know whether it's because I only get a little bit of cold, like you're not fully submerged, or whatever it is. I have not been able to convince myself to do cold showers yet.
Yeah, the only thing that gets me through it is I specifically don't have my coffee and breakfast until after. And so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get my nice hot cup of coffee after this. I just power through it. And I started off by, having a hot shower and then for the last 30 seconds just turning it like all the way cold. And it's hard. It's really hard. Um, but yeah, now I've worked my way up to just having colds the whole time. So
I At some point I'll try it. At some
yeah,
point.
you got to just try it at least once. And if it's not for you, like you can even, and I tell people too that have asked me about it, is you don't need to buy, 10, a 10-pound bag of ice and use that every day in your bathtub. Just fill up your bathtub with all the way cold water. You're still going to get benefits from that alone. Like that is pretty cold. Or, just buy some bigger ice cube trays and use that every day. You don't have to have this. I would love one of those like temperature controlled cold plunges for outside and whatnot, but that's a lot of money. I don't have that. Um, so that's this is just what I'm doing now, and it works good for me. Maybe one day I'll get one of those fancy tubs, but I am in
So
Canada.
actually,
I am in Canada, so during these months, I could just get like we live on a ranch here. I could just use one of the like water troughs or whatever, and one of the big bins, and then just fill it with water. And you see videos of people taking weights and smashing the ice. Like it's cold enough here, I
so
could do that.
I was going to say that one of my guests lives in Switzerland, and that's what she does. And so she does it in the winter months, and she legit has like an ice filled, like just from water sitting out there, ice filled, and she breaks the ice when she does it, cold plunges in, and I'm like,
That's
that'd
yeah,
be great. But
that's
also,
intense. Yeah.
so another thing, and people who have never lived in a really warm climate, for about 4 months out of the year, there's no such thing as cold water in my house. Like literally the coldest water you can possibly get is still lukewarm because it is so hot
Oh,
outside.
okay. Yeah.
But we are in the winter, and I will try that.
Right.
So, one thing that I did want I have a funny story for you. And then I want to talk about like basically this meteoric rise that you and your account have had. So for anybody that doesn't know, I originally I followed you one of the first follows, and I think Jesselyn Randall was like either liked something or had a mutual or something. And I was like, okay, I'll follow you. Remind me what your handle was back there. What it had carnivore in it, right?
Yeah, conservative carnivore.
Conservative carnivore. That's right. And I remember the video that you posted about vegans and farting. That went crazy. Like my
Yeah.
mom sent me that video.
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, cool, mom, I already followed her. So you went crazy. That thing, I think last time I checked, had like 8 or 9 million
It's like
views.
11 million now.
Like
It's
absolutely
crazy.
insane. How was dealing with that? Like, because I've had videos go never on Instagram. I've had videos do like 1 million on TikTok, 2 million on TikTok, and it gets a little crazy. Like, I would every time I put my phone down, I'd wake up and I'd have 400 notifications, and I'm like, gee, Christmas. How was dealing with that? Because you were, if I recall, you only had like 1,000 followers at that, like, or
Yeah.
something pretty low.
Yeah, it was low.
How was dealing with that? Like when it blew up like that?
Um, well, trying to keep up with the comments, it's like that's hard. It's really hard. And the amount of message requests that I had of people like get a life loser or you're going to hell, like comment like messages like that, it kind of it takes a little bit of a toll on you a little bit, especially if people who have had a lots of videos go viral and all that, they're used to that. Like I wasn't used to that, and so I'm like, oh man, like the world hates me right now. I mean then you kind of find your tribe and the people that support you, and you just kind of read through the nice comments, and it's like, okay, I feel I feel better. I'm not the only one. There's other normal people too out there. So yeah.
And so it was close to this time that you you changed your name, right? To Was there a name in between before you ended
No.
up with Ancestral? It went straight to that one.
Yeah.
Um, I have a pretty good idea of things that might have happened leading to that change. What was the main reason behind
Well, the main
the
reason
name change?
was because I wasn't doing carnivore anymore. I had moved to more the just ancestral based. And so I was like, well, it doesn't make sense to have my username as that when I am not doing carnivore. So that was really the main reason.
Did you get any? I call them either the carnivore police or the protectors of the dogma. Did you get any pushback from any substantial carnivore accounts about the foods that you were eating and how you weren't carnivore?
Um Not any like no really notable accounts, I don't think. I'm trying to remember. I know I had a couple people like message me like if they'd seen a video and they're like, I thought like that's not on a carnivore diet, or like I thought you just ate meat and that sort of thing. And I just explained like, yeah, I did that for a little bit and now I've added in other foods again. So
That's because I think that's a huge problem, especially within carnivore. There's these people who, anytime you deviate or want to deviate or eat anything that's not like strictly carnivore, they feel it's their place to be like, that's not carnivore. Like you're setting a bad example for people who are out there on carnivore. And that's when we start to like sound like vegans to me.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like you got vegans who are like, that's not vegan. Or
Yeah.
vegetarians and they're like, if you eat eggs, you promote animal abuse and all of that. So
Yeah.
I'm always interested in that because at the beginning, I got some. Um, I had some people who were like, change your handle, you're not carnivore. I was like, bro,
Yeah.
chill out. Like, last I checked, the most polarizing figure for carnivore, the guy who said carnivore MD, eats animal based.
Yeah.
And like, yes, he did because he got a huge pushback. That's why he changed his name because he had a bunch of people basically ragging on him for having a carnivore MD. But so I think it's always interesting when people like vary a little bit because there's inevitably the people who are like, you're doing it wrong. Like, so do you get pushback from, because you had a whole bunch of carnivore people follow you, you still do.
Hmm.
Have you gotten pushback from the carnivore side of it about the fact that you now eat honey and, carbs a carb and honey's the same as white bread and
There has been a couple comments, but nothing crazy. Yeah, there's been a few comments like, well, honey's no different than sugar, and that those type of comments. Or like, oh, you're having maple syrup, you might as well have like a teaspoon of sugar, something like that. Um, but yeah, so I think some people just need to chill out and remember that everyone's on their own journey and it doesn't like, strict carnivore is not the be end all, right? It's not like, everyone's going to find what works best for them. Now, I mean, don't be vegan, like you're going to get malnourished that way, but but yeah, like if you're eating real food and making sure you're getting enough protein from animal foods, like that's great. I don't think everyone has to be strict carnivore, and it was a great tool for me um, for a short period. But yeah, I wouldn't plan on eating that way forever. Some people, I'm sure, are gonna plan to eat that way forever or long term. But but yeah, you don't want to like. I love the carnivore community, and everyone seems to align a lot with my beliefs and values in general. But yeah, you don't want people to start becoming like vegans where they're like, you got to eat this way, and, putting other people down if they're not strictly following it 100%.
For sure. And that's right into the other aspect I want to talk to, because I get accused. So I have kept, for the most part, I've kept like politics out of my account.
Mhm.
And I kind of decided that from the beginning because I spent a lot of the last few years arguing politics, and it made me want to do stuff I'm not going to say on the internet. And I was like, man, this is just like not worth it. Like, I just don't want to
Yeah.
talk to anybody about politics anymore. So I've intentionally kept it out, which is funny because I immediately get accused of all of my political beliefs based on the food I eat,
Right.
which I think is hilarious. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you've got to be this. And I'm like, how? Literally just post the food that I eat. Like, come on, you're being
Yeah.
ridiculous now. So one thing that I really, and for anybody who doesn't follow Nicole, what I really like and what I really appreciate about your account is you've like stepped it up even more. Because it's really easy once you get a whole bunch of followers to like not want to offend anybody. So you're like, I don't want to like step on people's toes because I don't want to lose followers, and I don't want people to think that, you know, normal stuff, like normal
Mhm.
human being behavior where you don't want people to hate you. How has it been for you, like steering into that curve? Because now, like, obviously anybody who follows you knows exactly where you stand on everything.
Mhm.
And I very much appreciate like the voice that you're giving to that. How has that been? And has that been tough for you to maintain it? Because I know you've gotten a lot of hate on
Mhm.
like multiple numbers of your posts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been tricky. Yeah. I mean, even just the censorship side of things, like Instagram censoring videos and taking videos down, and that gets really, really frustrating. But yeah, even with all the hate, like I've never once been like, it's gotten to me a little bit sometimes, but never to the point where like, okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth quiet. I really just want to share what I believe, and the people that can want to follow, then follow. If they don't, then whatever. I don't care. I have started not sharing as much of the political stuff on my page, um, like the LGBT stuff. Still, I'll always advocate against veganism, because I really do think it's a one big scam. So, and I know I'll continue to get hate for some of that stuff, but whatever, I don't really care. But mainly, I've tried to hone down a little bit more recently, not because of the hate getting to me or I'm worried about offending people, because I really don't care about offending people whatsoever. Um, Most people with the kind of messages that I've gotten, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, okay, I'm not talking about this stuff anymore. But yeah, I don't care. I can offend everyone. I don't care. But yeah, the work, the effort, and the time that I've put into my account and my health journey, I had got this, I don't even know what message it was from Instagram, but some sort of risk to my account. I don't know if it's because of people reporting me or, hate speech, that type of thing. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit and focus a little bit more specifically on health stuff, because I don't want to lose my account and lose all this work that I've put into it. And it's really unfortunate that it has to be that way, like that Instagram has to be like that. But yeah, I think everyone still knows where I stand on my beliefs and stuff. So,
Well, what I really like about that, so I actually, when I first, so I can resonate with a little bit of it, because when I first started my account, I was like, all right, I'm not trying to be controversial on anything. I'm just trying to post like carnivore stuff. And it wasn't until I realized all of the vegan and all of the hate that I would get. I'm like, I literally wouldn't post anything offensive at all. I would literally just post what I would eat, or maybe like a did you know? And people would be like, oh, you're going to get a heart attack. I'll catch you when the colon cancer gets you. And I'm like, what's happening? Like, I'm like this tiny account and people are like wishing cancer and death on me. Like, what? So there was a point where I was like, well, forget this. I'm just going to let people know how I feel. And mostly it's on veganism, because for me, that's a super easy one to talk about, because I don't think anybody can like rationally give me a legit reason why I shouldn't eat animals. And so then I just went like full bore and got a positive response for the most part. And I was like, okay, like I'm good with this. I can argue about veganism. It doesn't like spin me up. It doesn't, and kind of like how politics would, especially in the US. Like, so, but I watched a couple of the things of yours, and I actually just realized, so like I still see all your stuff. Like I try to interact as much as possible, but I would look at your account and you'd have 10,000 followers. I was like, oh man. And then you made that post. For anybody who's listening to this now, you probably have over 100,000 by now. But you made a post, you're like, I'm so close to 50. And I was like, what is she talking about? She's got like 15,000 followers. And I went on your page and I was like, holy cow. Like, it's blown. And that's awesome, because you've literally blown up even more the more you've refused to succumb to the hate and the
true. Well, I was
Instagram
looking
picture.
at my statistics off of one reel that I posted, basically saying like, what did it say? It said people follow along until they realize I this, and it was like, I advocate against abortion. I don't agree with, the alphabet agenda, and I don't support the climate change stuff and whatever. That reel alone, the insights showed it like 30,000 followers just from that one. So I guess now the majority of people that follow me, it's like, you know, that's what they're about. That's what they agree with me on those things. And so that's my tribe right there.
And like that's been so awesome to see, because like I literally, part of me wishes that I would have like the same thing, but part of me doesn't. Like, that's just a headache for me, right? Like, I don't feel like there's some things that are, I tried to argue. For anybody who doesn't even know my political views, I pretty much align on almost everything that you say. But I tried one time on Twitter. That's usually where I get my arguing out. I don't argue too much on Instagram. Like, that's my like nice and fluffy account. Twitter is just like
Yeah.
like this. Which, ironically enough, Twitter's my best following and most interaction by far. But I actually tried, like, an abortion post popped up, and I like got into the comments, and I felt sick after like having a couple arguments, and I was like, this makes me feel not good.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I am done. Like, people can ask my views and I will tell them my views, and I'm not going to shy away from that. But I am done trying to argue with people, because I legitimately feel sick to my stomach that some of you think this way.
Yeah. And
So,
and it's yeah, it can be tricky. And I mean the posts that are controversial like that, those are the ones that go the most viral, right? Because people start to argue on those. So like I'll post something like so educational, like that I feel like, wow, this is great content, great like helpful health content. And it's like, oh, that sucked. Like nobody wants to hear that. As soon as you post controversial stuff, they're like, it blows up. Um, and so and yeah, the comments can definitely get to you, and you actually will feel sick sometimes. But, I've had people message me actually saying that, like, your posts have really helped me reconsider my thoughts on abortion and, different things like that. So to me, like, that's totally worth it if I can, help. help people see the truth and all that. So yeah.
And I think that's why you've done so well, and it's not just for anybody who hasn't followed it, it's not just those super controversial posts that have gone. You've had, I was looking back, and you've had quite a few posts that are just inspirational in general that have gone,
Hmm.
viral, mini viral, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's really important for people to see, and that's why people latch on, because a lot of people just want like some hope in something, right? And
Yeah.
so to see some of those, that's why I'm really glad you started showing your like transformation stuff, because I know that's
Hmm.
hard. Like that's really hard. Um, that was when I first decided, like, because originally I was like, I'm gonna have like a faceless account, like I'm not gonna
Mm.
post anything. And then my wife was actually like, you gotta post that, like, because I lost 25 pounds, yeah, right around the
Okay.
same, but had
Nice.
huge like change in like physique.
Right.
And she's like, you gotta post that, like, just do it. And the same kind of thing. I was like, man, like I don't want people to know that I look like that before. Like,
Hmm.
I just want people to think that, because that's back when like my account was just a logo, like I didn't have my face on it, like any of that stuff. And the number of people who are like, I couldn't do that, right? I couldn't post my transformations, or I'm in a position where I want to get to a transformation, or like beliefs like that. They're like, I could never post my beliefs because you get so much hate. It's, I love seeing it when that actually works, right? Because it's not, there's the accounts that just post inflammatory content just for the sake of posting inflammatory content,
Hmm.
right? And some of those blow up, like, and those make you mad. You're like, this person just wants the world to burn, and they now have 500,000 followers because everybody just argues on their stuff.
Right.
So it's, yeah, I love seeing it, because the genuine nature of what you feel and wanting to help people comes out, and I think that's super cool to see.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hesitant too to not post like transformation and like more inspirational content like that because I'm still not at my goal. I'm actually only halfway to the goal that I set out for myself. And so I'm like, well, should I be posting a transformation when I'm not even at my goal? And I'm like, well, yes, of course, because I'm still halfway and I'm way ahead of where I was 7 months ago. And I'm just gonna, continue to reach more of my goals. So yeah, you just kind of have to have that courage to share, even though, yeah, because we're never gonna be perfect. We're all gonna have our shortcomings and all that. And so yeah.
How has your family been during this whole process, that like starting Carnivore to the social media stuff?
Um, good. Yeah. I mean, um, it's funny. My kids, my older kid, she's 5. She hates meat. She really hates meat, and so I'm like, girl, like you cannot be a vegan. Like, please no. Um, so I've been learning as I've been changing my diet, I've been learning like ways to get more protein into her diet, like homemade chicken nuggets and using lots of like Greek yogurt or, the beef protein powder, different things like that. And I actually got I don't live near any of my parents or sister or all that, but my dad, I got him to try carnivore and like he felt so much better. Like he has like I guess a little bit of arthritis and um just extreme tiredness and all that and it really really helped him. He's kind of like he still does it a little bit, I think, but not strict. Like he will cheat and just feel like total crap after. But yeah, it's been cool to see that. Oh yeah, it's been able to help him in ways as well. And yeah, my husband eats pretty much everything that I eat because I make the meals, and so he definitely feels a lot better when he's eating the food that I make. Um, but he does have quite a sweet tooth. So, yeah, but yeah, I think we
Yeah.
all just feel so much better when we've cut out all the processed food. And even now, like, well, we love, my husband's Mexican Mennonite, and we love Mexican food, like love, love, love it. And so every so often we'll go to a Mexican restaurant and we'll have the tacos, we'll have all of that, and um thoroughly enjoy it. But always afterwards, it's a good reminder to why I eat the way that I do, because it's just like instant bloat, instant brain fog, and just sluggish. So, I think every once in a while, like, that's fine, go out and enjoy a meal, but it does remind you why you do this day to day.
So what's super funny is I'm actually going to a Mexican restaurant in like 3 hours,
Oh, nice. Nice.
and I've gotten that. And I love that you say that, because I tell people, they're like, "Well, eating out," and I'm like, "Then don't. Like, either eat out or don't eat out." But if I'm going to go out and A, pay for food, and B, like, enjoy myself out there, I'm going to like work it into my plan, so I
Hmm.
don't feel like I'm losing discipline, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I'm also like, sometimes you just got to live a little. Like, I don't eat out
Hmm.
very often. It's like they're usually dates, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy the food, and I actually don't feel horrible anymore.
Mm.
Um, I feel like I'm to the point where I can actually, and that can be a problem sometimes, because I'll be like, man, I eat this and I feel great. Like, I'm not gaining
Yeah.
weight. I feel great. And then, I do that for like a week, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like, maybe I should like
Yeah.
back it off a little bit. Um, I tell people, like, just like plan it in, like look forward to it, go enjoy yourself, use it as a reminder of why you don't do that all the time,
Hmm.
and then just like jump back on the horse the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's this,
So I,
mindset. Like, I I when I was first doing carnivore and I was like making separate food for my kids, and I was like you get this habit of, like, when you're making food or something, oh, you lick your finger or something, or lick the utensil, and I'm like, oh, wait, I can't do that. Like, man, that level of strictness, like, I don't see that as a healthy thing, as someone who's like, I am never going to eat out at a restaurant ever again. I am, if I get invited somewhere, like, I'm going to always bring like a package of bacon or something. Like, I mean, if I'm not going to judge anyone, if that works good for you, that's great, but like, for me, I could never do that. And most people could never do that. And so it's like, yeah, enjoy those, your kid's having a birthday party, enjoy the food, or you want to go out for a meal and a steakhouse and also get mashed potatoes or garlic bread, do that. And then, start again tomorrow with the way you eat. Like, it doesn't, the all or nothing mindset can really bring people down. And I think that's where I fell in the past, when I tried diets, or even counting calories and different things like that, where it was like, okay, all or nothing, and you can do that for a little bit, and then, well, that's too hard, so now I'll just give up completely.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually, when I said we're kind of like opposites as far as like where we started and where we are now. So I'm on week 3 of BBBE, so beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and salt. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
like that's all I eat right now. I no variants, no spices, no nothing.
Do you do coffee as
And
well?
I do coffee.
Okay.
Um, I fight people on that, because people will be like,
Hmm.
well, that's a plant. And I'm like, cool, I'm not eating it. I'm drinking like the water residue that was boiled over the
Yeah.
top of it. Like, chill.
Yeah.
So I do coffee. But so I like super, super strict. And it's funny you brought that up because my son's 5th birthday was last weekend. And that one I actually made, like, going in, I was like, I'm not going to eat any of the food. Like, it just doesn't, nothing that's being made here is going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And so I went, and it actually wasn't that difficult. Like, it was a little difficult because chips are probably like my kryptonite. And there was like Doritos, but I'm like, no, like, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. But you can go from super strict. Like I said, I'm going to a Mexican place today, and I don't know what I'll get, but it's probably going to have a tortilla, and it's probably going to have some rice, and I'm probably going to try to limit the beans because I am not a fan of the bloating on beans. Like, that's like instant bloat. Like, I look at beans and I'm like, cool, I need like 4 size bigger pants now.
Yeah.
But like, and so early, like 2 weeks ago, was my wife's birthday, and we went out, and I got a burger, but I got the bun with it. I was like, no, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy. And even though I'm being super, super strict and I'm not eating at my kid's birthday party, it's totally okay. I tell people to plan it, right? Because it's the breaking of discipline that destroys diets. It's like, oh, well, I'll just have like a couple chips here, or I'll just have one thing of ice cream here. And then all of a sudden it just snowballs down.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. You don't have to be all or nothing. Like, you can still be carnivore. You can still be ancestral. You can be any number of diets except vegan. Vegan doesn't let you do that.
Yeah.
And like, enjoy some foods and like still live life and not feel like you're, I don't know, trapped by your diet, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to feel like it controls every aspect of your life. Like, I don't feel like God intended us to live that way. Just like personally, like, I don't believe that, he made humans to live off of just red meat their whole life. Like, he gave us fruits, and he gave us, the land of milk and honey, like those, like, you know, but so yeah, it's really just a balance and figuring out what works best for you and taking it step by step, doing the best you can.
So
And
I actually have a great question to that, because I've heard you say that. And at the risk of any of my followers being like, oh, the political, I don't care. So I agree with you. Do you think that modern fruits and vegetables change that perspective? And I'll tell you my opinion after.
in a sense, it could for sure. Yeah, it definitely could. I'm not an expert on this, but I know, like, I guess things you would find in the wild now, like berries and stuff. Like, I love berries over a lot of other fruits. Like, here in Canada, we don't, half the stuff you buy at the store, fruits and whatnot, like, they don't grow here. Like, that's imported. And so I think that's why it's also important to eat like what's local to you. But yeah, I haven't dove too much into the, fruits and vegetables back in biblical times. It's something I want to do yet, is dive more into that. But I also, like, I know bread and all that was prepared very differently back then. Like, grains were soaked or sprouted and stuff like that. And that's why I don't eat a lot of sourdough, because I don't feel great if I eat a lot of it. But a couple times a week I'll have sourdough, but I make sure that it's actual sourdough and not your regular white bread. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fruits and vegetables.
So I'm of the same opinion, right? And I actually love it. I've actually had vegans try and use biblical arguments against me. I was like, okay. So yes, I am of the opinion that I do not think we were created carnivores. I actually love it when they're like, you think you're a carnivore? I was like, that's classification of animal. I follow a diet. A little bit different. You know, it doesn't sound good. Carnivore diet, JT. No, like that's weird. It's my name. Like just chill.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, I don't think, and even Sean Baker has said, no, as a human species, we're not carnivore, we're omnivore, and I think that we have, periods of time where we've been obligate carnivores. So that's a really funny debate to me. I
Yeah.
do think we were designed to eat fruits and vegetables. However, I believe that a lot of our fruits have been changed so drastically through crossbreeding and the fact that industrial agriculture, like actually, I read some stuff up on corn, and farmers pick the seed of corn that they're going to do based on how many, how much item per weight per acre they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So it's purely based on the ability to produce more. And I get that. Like it's like that's how they make money, that's how they support their family. So I understand that. I'm not faulting them for it. But the fact that most vegetables that we have today were not around, like they're all been like selectively crossbred into existence. I think it's a super interesting. I don't know how you would actually study that. Like, how are you going
Yeah.
to study the effect of it? But I think a lot of issues that we have, especially with vegetables, are from that, and from the fact that almost everything you have is covered in Roundup when you buy it. So yeah, and I've talked to people. I'm like, if you grow it yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
you know where it comes from, and you grow it yourself, absolutely eat it. Like, and
Yeah.
you feel fine, totally. So I always think that's an interesting one because I am not of the persuasion that we were designed and meant to only eat meat. I think that a lot of people would benefit from doing that because of the environmental factors that go into everything else that we eat.
Yeah. And I plan to have a garden this coming summer because it does make a difference if you know where it comes from. And like fruits and vegetables, they're expensive, and especially if you buy organic. And so yeah, I think if you can grow it yourself, like that's amazing. And at the end of the day, like yeah, I know fruits and vegetables aren't exactly how they were in the Bible times. You know, a lot of things are not how they were in the Bible times. It if someone is having eggs and fresh fruit for breakfast, that is still always going to be way better than if they're going to have a bowl of cereal or something, right? So for people that stress too much about that aspect, it's like, well, it is still way better than the way that whatever 90% or however whatever percentage of North Americans eat. It's still always going to be better, you know, if you have sweet potato and chicken for lunch as opposed to a box of Kraft dinner. Like it's still 100%
for
better.
for sure. And I completely agree. And this 3 week period is the only time in my entire carnivore that I have not eaten fruit.
Okay.
I don't eat vegetables because I can like markedly tell when I have issues with that. I'll eat
Hmm.
the fruit vegetables, right?
Yeah.
Like the tomatoes, the cucumbers, that kind of stuff.
Avocado,
Yeah, for
stuff like
sure.
that.
But so I will introduce fruit again. Um, what I'm surprised about is I don't like feel any worse. I thought I was going to feel worse going off of
Hmm.
fruit. Like I thought I needed something, and I feel totally fine.
Yeah.
So I'm very much of the opinion, and this is where I differ than a lot. I'm very much of the opinion that do what makes you feel best.
Hmm.
Like, and no matter how good you think you're feeling, if you're doing a standard like Western diet, you don't feel good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you think, you don't. So start somewhere. Do I think carnivore has a lot of benefits? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, do I think it's the end all be all for everybody? No. And is it necessarily the end all be all for me? I don't know. I feel pretty good right now, so maybe. But I'm also not going to ever not eat fruit again because I love fruit, and
Right.
I'm of the same opinion. I do think we were
Yeah,
meant to eat
exactly.
fruit. I just think there might be some issues that you run into because of modern technology. But
Right. And
so
yeah,
yes,
like I don't eat like raw salads. I mean, I like raw carrots and stuff, but like you won't find me still eating a raw leafy green salad or like spinach smoothies or things like that. Like spinach and like that stuff actually makes my stomach hurt, like physically hurt. And so, I stay away from that stuff. And I guess those foods are higher in oxalates, right? And so I like sticking to the more of the root vegetables. Like eh, I just also like how those taste and they don't make me feel gross. So yeah.
Exactly. Well, I could probably keep talking for another hour, but
Oh
I
wow,
really,
it's been
really
an hour already.
appreciate,
Yeah.
I know, right?
Okay.
I really, really appreciate you coming on. I know things have been crazy. Like I said, the first couple times we interacted, it was like we were both like small accounts, and I was like, oh, cool, it's another like fellow. And then all of a sudden I look and you're like straight up influencer. So I'm very glad and happy that you were able to make it on.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I appreciate you having me.
So, for anybody who wants to follow along, what social media platforms are you on currently?
I am on TikTok and Instagram and I guess now Threads, which I haven't quite figured out exactly how to use that yet. It's a whole new thing. Um, so yeah, but it's all ancestral flourishing. That's my username across TikTok and Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
I would highly recommend giving a follow. You are not only one of the more entertaining accounts, but I always love seeing, especially the pokes at vegans. Like that's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's what I do all day on Twitter. So thank you very, very much for being on here. To anybody listening, go give her a follow. Highly recommend it. Appreciate you guys listening. Like, subscribe, share, leave a review, and we'll see you guys next time.